wherever you are. I'm Regan, and this is Natasha here. We're on every weekday, not every weekday, excuse me, every Monday at 4 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. And this is we call our show The Dance of the Soul. And Natasha's an intuitive medium, and I'm a facilitator, trained hypnotherapist with the Newton Institute. We both help people with just common sense ways of dealing with life, but also and mainly from a spiritual perspective. So you find out that the spiritual perspective gives you a lot of the whys to what's happening in your life. And so it makes things easier to navigate. And we find out with our clients that they're able to have difficult things in their life, but with the information that we provide them with the whys of everything, they tell us that life can still be happy in the middle of the tornado, the kind of thing. So today, you can see Natasha. You can reach her at angelicclarifications.com for sessions. I do online sessions of regular therapy and life between lives therapy, which is where, as crazy as it sounds, we now have a way to help you go into a deep state of trance, and you actually get to visit the afterlife for a few hours. So Natasha can just do that with her eyes wide open, just sitting here right in front of you. But for a lot of you, if you want to have like a 2 or 3 hour trip over there, you can join the 65,000 people that we've helped do that so far. So today, the topic that we've picked is about setting boundaries from a common sense and from a spiritual perspective. And I don't know if there's been a client that I've had in 12 years now that hasn't had issues. Even myself and everybody that I know, we have issues with boundaries. And let's, Natasha, start out by defining what boundaries are from your perspective. What's the purpose of boundaries? Basic common sense.
So if you're talking
definition.
in the human form of boundaries, we'll call it, is that it's that setting up the moment where we can stay a good, healthy I, and so that we can be a stronger we. And I always call it, like when I was dealing with a husband who was drinking, I struggled with boundaries. I was almost passive aggressive about things because I didn't get a chance to say things because he would shut me down so often. And so I kept getting this image of two, like the Greek pillars, they have all these Greek pillars.
Mm-hmm.
Well, 2 pillars make a strong roof. And if you have weak boundaries, you're going to not hold up a strong roof. You're not going to hold up. So boundaries, in definition, it's, you can read, I should probably read the definition of a boundary, but it is about having a healthy I, truthfulness that we want to have. And everybody else's perception, perspective, whatever you want to call it, is going to be different. And it's honoring what's on that side, but yet saying, this is mine. And so that's a long way around the short block of looking it up, Googling it, whatever you want to call it, boundary. But that's what I have learned through living, is that boundary. And a lot of people think that it's a very black and white. It's not. It's very flexible, palatable, movable, shiftable. Oh, I kind of like that perception. So my boundary might move a little bit this way, with that. And many of us are very rigid, and some of us are very loose.
Yeah.
Some of us can't stop giving, and then that pushes on somebody else's boundaries. Yeah. And some of us can't receive, which then doesn't allow somebody else to give their boundaries a little bit to us.
Yeah, you have to realize that everybody, boundaries to me is just teaching people how we want to be treated. Mm-hmm. It's like teaching them, and to assume what a person's boundaries are, you're going to get in all kinds of trouble, because sometimes, you assume that everybody thinks a certain way, or that everybody's boundaries would be the same. But it's not. And if you want to have good relationships in the world, you have to have good boundaries. And it's also, as we'll talk about a little bit too, it's about accepting other people's boundaries. Like,
Mm-hmm.
for instance, just try some simple things here. You have somebody that, goes to bed at 9 o'clock every night, and maybe you're a midnight person. Well, if you're not accepting their boundaries, you'll call them at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock or something, wake them up. And then they're going to be all upset. Why are you calling me? I'm already asleep. I'm in bed, and you go, oh, I'm sorry. That's one way of learning someone's boundaries. And then hopefully if they've told you that one time, that you'll remember that, because some people just, they don't care. They don't respect boundaries. And even though you tell them, hey, don't call me after 9 o'clock, they'll still continue to do it. And that makes that's a very selfish person, or a very, not a good way to have good relationships. So, um, when you're with a partner, the best thing to do is to sit down and go through different areas of your life and ask them, for instance, what time do you like to go to bed? What time do you not like to be disturbed? How early can I wake you in the morning? What time do you usually eat lunch and dinner? And I mean, everything, every little detail of your relationship, you need to know what the boundaries are.
Mm-hmm. And even if we don't, let's say it's not the word respect it, but we kind of oops it. At least we can know, oh, that's right, I apologize. And boundaries will shift over the years too. So it's that reuniting of being observant of what
Mm-hmm.
somebody is. And so I googled the definition of boundary. It's a line that marked a limit that limits an area or a dividing line. Well, that is a truth. And yet at the same time, though, boundaries, if we respect boundaries, it's a form of respect for someone else. And many people don't respect others. They don't respect themselves. So that's why, many of us love others more than we love ourselves. And so that's why we have struggles with even knowing our own boundaries.
Yeah. Well, with COVID, I've noticed, with that 6 foot rule, everybody's different. And you have to, like you're in a store in line, and some people are 6 foot away, and other people are right up on the back of people. And you can see those people that are squishing people, and the person in front's kind of like trying to give them the sign by their body language, like, hey, step back,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and, that's just the 6 foot thing. Now, you know, if you want to get along with everybody and try to make everything smooth, then it's good to respect that with people. If they come up to you and they're not 6 feet away or something like that, and you're comfortable with it, that's okay. But don't take for granted you can do that with somebody else, because they may be, they want. Some people would actually measure the 6 foot difference, probably. And other people, everybody's different that way.
It is, and me, I stay working in the elementary school for a purpose, and I'm only there for a short time in the morning, because I love to help kids read and just help them with emotions. There's so many kids who have emotions, and I have an abilities, not with every kid. If I sync up with a kid, it's easier. It's amazing how many kids do not want to be touched.
Yeah.
And you assume that as an adult that you can just go up and lay a hand on the back of a child. Oh no.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that maybe, one of those kids that you want to go and just give a kind hand to, but that hand was maybe the hand that is a little heavy with a parent or an uncle or
Yeah.
a friend or, something like that. And it's that setting up those personal boundaries. And many of us who have been sexually abused, there's another kind of boundary. So boundaries can be very elusively defined, and it's a can of worms when you're talking about boundaries in a way.
Yeah.
But this conversation that Regan and I wanted to have is that it's not about going into a lot of triggers, going into a lot of scenarios, but it's finding out how can we come forward as we come out of this COVID situation, because many of us are bothered by energy. Many of us are finding our intuitive selves. Many of us are finding there's more out there in this world. And holy crap, if I open up that door, what other doors am I gonna open up? And how do I establish these kinds of boundaries around us so that we don't feel so vulnerable? Because I know for a lot of people who are very who are it's the sensory, they sense, clairsentient. There we go. I think it's the one, where you're more of an empath, that many don't have boundaries to say, that's your energy, stay away. I will respect your energy by hearing you, talking with you about it, but your energy stays over there. I'm keeping my energy here. And many of us struggle with that.
Yeah. I mean, with the touching situation, which is interesting because some people are huggers and some people aren't, so even with your friends and stuff, you just keep your mind open and watch for people's signals to see if they're like you or not. Just don't assume that everybody's like you and everybody wants a big bear hug every time you see them, I mean, and of course, we've been having to learn to be very sensitive to people that are on the spectrum a lot of times, because one of the things on the autism spectrum is it's very common that they don't like to be touched. We don't know why or anything yet, but that's it. So, you're going to scare the heck out of them or bother them, especially like if you're a grandparent, and you have a grandchild that has autism, like people that I know. The grandparents want to go and still just smother them and hug them, and it just bothers them every time. The child will tell the mom, and then the mom will have to tell grandpa, hey, look, and then the grandparents get their feelings hurt. Like, why didn't they? It's just understanding. I watched. Did I mention that last week? That I just can't get over. It's just such a good series on Prime. As We See It.
As We See It. Yeah, you talked about it.
Yeah,
I haven't been able to check it out yet.
Yeah, it's for people watching it. It's really, really good. It's just 3 adults that have autism, each a different flavor of it, and how that they deal with relationships and with life, and I sometimes the people with autism too, they have to really be taught to be respectful of people's boundaries, because they a lot of times one of the things is they don't have a filter, so they just say what's on their mind, which is great and refreshing sometimes, but sometimes there's that cultural thing that you have to learn, that in some cases you can't say certain things because to be thoughtful of other people's feelings and things, So I know I'm trying to think of. I know there's probably been plenty of times when I walked over people's boundaries when I was younger, and it took me. I was kind of a slow brain guy. It took me a while to catch on.
But I think that's part of the age too.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of the age. Like we have a student in our school that, he's young, very, only child, and ADHD. And it doesn't matter who's talking. Wants to talk, we'll talk. And I had to be a little mean to him today and said, do you like being mean?
Oh.
Because nothing was getting to him. Nothing was slowing his brain down. And I said, you're a very kind boy. And I know you don't want to be mean. But when you're talking and the teacher's trying to talk, that's kind of being mean.
Mm-hmm.
And I tried to talk like this. I said, but I know that you like to, but you're a nice kid. And so, are you being nice right now? I think you are. Oh, thank you for being kind to me.
Yeah.
Can we be more kind to your teacher? Because a lot of kids nowadays, and I knew I was walking a very fine line, and I did not want to do this. But after, what is it? Almost 80 days of school, he hasn't gotten it yet.
Yeah.
And
well,
so,
you were very kind the way you put that. You talked to him like that, and that's a lot better than being mean and nasty to him. You know.
Yeah, I really tried to, and at the same time, my body language is very, respectful. I bent down in front of him. I tried to give my body language as a very kind, loving, motherish type, because that was my intention. I knew that I had to really check in with my intention before I had this conversation.
Yeah.
Was it to teach him a lesson, or was it to show him a way?
Right. Yeah. Show him a
And
better
there
way.
again is me. That's a perfect example of me having boundaries with myself, knowing that I couldn't put myself on him, but it was my time because the teacher was exasperated,
Yeah.
has been exasperated. And okay, this is my opportunity to be the father who comes in at the other person who comes in at the end of the day, and say, here's another perspective.
Yeah. Don't you think, for me, it's always been the hardest thing about setting boundaries is not knowing exactly how to tell the other person in a way that they're not going to get defensive and you're going to have a big old fight or something. And a person that I had a nice relationship with 12 years before taught me so much about that. When she would have an issue with me, she, uh, at a nice time of the day after dinner or something like that, in the time, she would say, I have a request. Would you be willing to hear it? You know? And I say, sure, something maybe you could do for me. And I go, okay. The thing I'm thinking about was, she says, look, when we go out or go to a party or something, you get so excited about your friends and everything that you kind of walk in front of me all the time. And I feel like you're pulling me along instead of an equal with you. And she says, I know it's just because you're excited and everything, but you're forgetting about me. And it makes me feel, like I'm not part of the group or something. And I went, I didn't even know that. I didn't know that. I just, but the way she brought it up when, instead of saying, someone could have just said, I'm really pissed at you. We're at the party and you're just doing that. And I feel stupid. What's wrong with you? Then I would get all defensive and stuff like that. But just saying, I have a request. Would you be willing to hear it? And, or, there's something, would you be willing to do this for me? Kind of thing like that. So, also, I think I mentioned in one of our shows this last year, and I always remember it because it works so well, is one of the teachers at the hypnotherapy college and her daughter, their husband was a workaholic. And she says, I know he's feeling good because he's providing for the family and everything, but we never get to see him. My daughter, he's always gets to see her just a few minutes a night. And I want to have more time with him. And he's just busy, work all the time. So instead of being mean or doing something passive aggressive, at the dinner table with the daughter there or something, just the husband sitting there and says, I'll call their daughter Margaret. Margaret, I have a wanted to bring something up with you. Can we bring something up? And he'd say, yeah. And they would say, boy, we just love spending time with you and everything like that. We love the time when you have to give us everything like that, but we don't see you very often. And we feel really bad and we want to see you more. And then they would say, what's your solution, sweetheart? To the husband. So that was a good way of just saying, hey, we love you. We want to spend more time. It wasn't like, we never get to see you. You got to stop working, money's not that important, and then the guys would get defensive because they're thinking like, well, gosh, I'm just being a good guy providing for the family. It's what I have to do. So it's all, if you want the person to respect your boundaries or you want to get them on your side, don't go up and stab them, first,
there again is checking in with the intention.
Be nice. Yeah.
And many times it's not what you want to accomplish, it's how do you want to let it come through you so the other person will receive it. I know that I work on that too, that, hey babe, I have a conversation. Can we have a conversation about something that's going to be more than 3 words?
Yeah.
because he's a three word man. You know, it's like after that I leave him, and so then he knows that it's like, okay, this is. So I know that I can't use 10 sentences. I have to get it done in 3 sentences, but at least it's more than 3 words.
Yeah.
So respecting his boundaries of just because otherwise it seems like he's disrespecting me, and he's not. It's not in his language to listen for a long time.
I forget exactly the word, but on TikTok, I know Patty showed me some things like that, and it's about women wanting the men to speak more than just a few words, and they give all the examples. She goes on for like 5 minutes talking about this thing, and what do you think? And he goes, okay, and that's all he says,
Yeah, because he's already done and over it. No, I go to Toastmasters, and I've learned there was one person that came up and spoke, and she says there's 3 types of speakers and listeners. There's the one, for an example, giving directions. There's the short, very short conversation. You want to go to the address of 1025, and it's on the corner of 8th and Boulevard. Then you got the person who has the middle of the road. Okay, you want to go to the address, and there's a yellow house on the corner and you can park in front. Then there's the other people that conversate that are the ones that give you want to go down I-5, you take a right when you get off the exit, and they give you. And so it's respecting that. And when I heard this, I went, my husband's the address, just give the address.
Yeah.
And I'm the one that gives directions from the I-5. Okay, I need to come more into the middle, and I'm going to ask him in many situations that we need to have conversations.
Yeah.
Come a little bit more my way. I don't want him to come to my way, but let's meet in the middle.
Yeah. And I found out in traveling, all the years when I was a comedian, going to all these different states and things, and if people in different states tend to give directions differently. Mm-hmm. Like, if you want directions, you're in New Jersey, I remember that I asked the guy, where's this thing here? And he says, well, there's a hardware store about, 2 blocks down here. Now, when you see the hardware store, 2 blocks further, but they're short things. You're going to think the one thing's a street, but it's not. So you got to watch out. You go to the second street, and then you're going to turn right. It starts with an A. I can't really remember something, but you're going to see there's usually some old bicycles laying around there from the kids at the house. And then you're going to turn right there, and then now it's going to be a quick left. Now don't look to the right. You're going to miss it. It's on the left. Okay. So then you go on the left, you go by, you're going to go down till you see like this house that, oh my God, it's god awful pink. I don't know what they're thinking about, like this. And then, just a little further down there, there's a guy who's usually got his car on jack stands. You're going to go left over there down this alley. Now, be careful. Sometimes there's animals in that alley, And
then you forgot. Now, what do I do first? Do I start taking a right or a left right here?
It was hilarious. But, and that was Jersey. And that happened like 3 or 4 times when I was in Jersey asking directions. It was like, and they're so friendly. They're just down home, cool people, that want to help you. Speaking of that, when Patty's mom passed away, I was been with Patty for about 8 or 9 months, and we were going to go back. We're going to meet her mom and see her 2 sisters for the first time with their husbands. And we got to her sister's house, spent the night. She got a call, and her mom had just died right then. So we all had to rush up to there. It was kind of crazy. It was all meant to be, though, because we had all planned to get together as it was. So here was like 6 of us, her 2 sisters and us. And over the period of that 2 weeks, we completely cleared out her house. It was like miracle after miracle happened, where the right person would come for this and that. And we just did it in about a week. But we wanted to do, I'd never heard this back, but they called it a repass back there. Like the repass is the wake, like a wake, you can have a repass. And so we get to the guard gate of this place that we're going to see if we can have a repass there at their thing. And the guy at the guard gate says, "What are you looking for?" He says, we find about the repass. Repass, And yeah, I'm sorry to hear all about that. Someone died there. He says, "Well, I know they ran out." That he went on for about 10 minutes. And we said, "Well, are you the person that we need to find out about?" He goes, "Oh, no, I'm just telling you what's going on." And it was just, we were all sitting in the car, and he told us all the stuff we needed to know, at the guard gate. So we found the right person. It would have been difficult without that. But we all laughed. I mean, even though everybody's in grief, and at the time there were these funny things that would happen. And my wife says, because she's from Jersey, she sent me a thing the other day from Jersey. She said there was a notice that came in the thing. It says, if you've dated a Jersey girl, you may be entitled to compensation. So, isn't that funny? It's like, yeah. So, yeah. So, I still have, as much as I teach my clients to set boundaries and everything, I still, the challenge for me sometimes, because I don't want to, I'm an Enneagram 9. I like everybody to get along, and I don't like to hurt people's feelings or anything, but it's important, So, I get around to it.
I hear you. I know that there's a lot of moms or parents, I'm going to call it, because it's not just moms, it's parents that have a hard time with children.
Yeah.
And having boundaries with them. That's a can of worms, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, especially when they, they're raw. They don't know. Some of the 20-something-year-olds around, and I get a little upset with things they're doing. And then I think about myself back in those days when I was 20-something, and I go, wow, somebody had to teach me those boundaries. Like I rented a room from a man in Cupertino, right by San Jose. First time I'd ever room shared. I was going to rent it for a few months until I moved to LA. So it was such a learning lesson I had. So I was there. I just went in my room every night. He went in his room. And about 10 days later, he'd have Post-its on my bedroom door. So when I come home, the bedroom door, it would say, "I'm missing a spoon." And I go, "What? He's putting a Post-it thing on my thing. He's missing a spoon." So I looked around my room and I went, "Oh yeah, I got a spoon here. I didn't wash it because I thought it taken care of, keeping everything clean and everything." So I got the spoon, put it back, but I went, that's kind of, first I got insulted a little bit, like, you're going to get upset about a little spoon. So I come home a few weeks later, and there's a Post-it on the door. It says, "There's crumbs on the counter." And I went, "Crumbs." I went out there and I looked for 5 minutes. I couldn't find any crumbs. And then over by the stove where I'd cook, there's, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 little crumbs.
OCD-ish?
Yeah. But what I did, because of being a spiritual person now, my first instinct was to go, "Oh, son of a bitch, why am I even here?" Yeah, whatever. But then I went, wait a minute, there's always a lesson in things. And ever since that day, I realized what God was trying to tell me. He says, when is it ever right to leave anything, even if it's a few crumbs of my stuff, to put it on somebody else? In other words, in a sense, he'd have to clean those crumbs, and they were my crumbs. Huge lesson for me. I mean, gosh, and that has kept me probably 100 times when I'm someplace in that and realize, look, do I even have any crumbs here? Or did I leave something out of place? Because what you're saying is, I'm more valuable than you. You should clean up my mess,
Yes.
that way.
Oh, I know.
So,
that's the way with any relationship, that we have. And if you think about that as a human, and it's not that we have to be perfect all the time. I mean, there's going to be times where it's like this morning, I know I was rushing out the door. I was barely in my body. It was just one of those mornings. And I think I wiped down the counter so my husband would have a cleaner, area to make lunch, because he comes home for lunch after I leave. But if I didn't, okay, I'm sorry, and I will work on it. But there's that thing that it's interesting, because there's some people that are they're very, I'm going to call it, as my husband calls it, is it's CDO. It's not OCD.
What's that stand for? CDO.
Well, it's the same thing, but OCD is not in
Oh.
alphabetical order,
Oh.
so it's CDO.
Yeah.
And so with that, the as we have these emotional tendencies, and sometimes we're so out of control in our life that it triggers us to be very in control of what we can control.
Yeah.
And it's hard to be that on when we're not that on.
Yeah. Well, what I learned in that situation was I had to respect his boundaries. His boundaries were, don't leave me any of your crap around, even if it's a crumb, and to live there for a few months, I had to respect that,
Mm-hmm.
so it was a good lesson for me. And it's funny, but what I like is I taught a few years ago, I told my son that story, and he's been traveling around a lot and staying with different people's places. And he tells me he's doing the same thing. He's not leaving any crumbs, and I thought, wow, that's good. I said, actually taught him something.
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
And
it's good because we should be that way.
Mm-hmm. Well, and too, I'm gonna kind of label that with energy too. That many of us, we deposit ourselves in a place, and we forget that we leave our crumbs of energy where people
Yeah.
are.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing. And I'm going to go back to this one student that I was talking to about, that he was bluntly just blabbering over the teacher. I mean, totally just blabbering. And I said politely, do you realize that that's being mean? And I made sure afterwards. So we finished the conversation, went on and did some other work. And I came back to that same student. And I said to him, I hope you understand why I said that, because I think you're a very kind boy, and I think you're a very great kid, that just
Mm-hmm.
that it's time to learn about, being kind and being mean. And so I wanted to make sure that what I left him was better than I found him.
Yeah.
That I wanted to make sure my energy was picked up. And so I just didn't deposit something. I wanted to make sure I went back and checked in and said, okay, how did I leave this kid? Did I leave him kind of frazzled, or did I leave him? So being responsible for how we leave somebody is just as important than leaving the real crumbs on the floor. And
Yeah.
Ryan.
Oh, he's there. See,
So go
he's
ahead.
amazing. Yeah, he was out today. He's staying with us for a little while, so just on his own today. He went out and was cleaning. We have a really huge backyard and a lot of patio space and stuff, and he was out there cleaning up. And that was on my list to do in a couple of weeks, but now it looks really nice out there. I didn't know he was listening. Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.
He's quite a guy.
Yeah, clean the patio, so I stopped tracking leaves into the house.
He
and
does
I
that like
there. That's
Yeah.
It's not wrong or right if we turn around and go, oh, oops. What's wrong is if we go, oh, oops, and move on, because we don't know what that ripple effect is for the others around us.
Yeah.
If they had a really bad day and they came home and saw that, it would have been it's like, let me just put an exclamation point across my day. And it's not wrong or right, but if we can just, my intention is always to leave people better than I found them. And yet I don't always do that well, because I'm human. And sometimes I'm not leaving myself better than I found it.
Well, I think too, when you respect someone's boundaries, even though it's a little difficult for you, and you do it, there's something that makes you feel really good about yourself. It's like I don't know. It just feels good, Like I know Orion, he won't mind me telling you this. I'm sure he was with this people who was living in Nevada City for a while, and they were really bad housekeepers and left dishes for days, So he's in there, and they were gone to work. He just did all the dishes, cleaned the kitchen. Wasn't even his stuff, And they came home and like whoa, you're the best roommate we ever had, and he would do things like that so that he, would do even, more than his share, just to be kind, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the
It's
thing.
Go ahead.
Well, kindness is love with work boots on. So, I love that saying. Kindness is love with work
I
boots on.
like that. I'm gonna have to. You write things down too. Kindness
Yeah,
is.
it's love with work boots on. It takes effort to be kind, but there's a great reward when you're kind in the fact that there's some sort of energy that builds yourself up, that you just feel better about yourself that way. Or to take the high road all the time, like in an argument, to not have to be the one that's right, to even if you are right, it's what's the person trying to tell you.
Exactly. And I'm gonna kind of make a little bit of a wobbly boundary line here, though, that living with someone who's who's a taker. I'm just gonna call it. Okay.
Yeah.
And there's times in my life where I've been the one who's, like I said, shy and quiet, which gives other people the opportunity to have a louder voice. I've learned in my years to have just as an equal voice as somebody else. Doesn't mean that I have to be as loud, but sometimes when I have an equal voice, that brings down their voice, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's that fine line, though, to remember that be a giver, give care, give kindness, do what you need to do. But then again, as like, let me just take an exaggeration of that story that you just said about your son. That if they then automatically went in and just threw dishes all over the floor, and disrespected what you did, that would have been kind of an ouch. And if that happened over and over again, and some of us, we need to, if we're living in a place and we don't have the money, sometimes we do trade work for that.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also that fine line between saying, well, I'm going to leave the dishes, but I'm going to rinse them first, or I'm going to at least scrape the food off. There is that fine line where we can, with other people's boundaries or with our own, kind of, have a little bit of a gray area to where we can feel like we're not throwing our full energy into something that's going to be eaten away and discarded. So
Well,
Ryan here said something here real quick.
Oh, they helped him eat. They said, housemates helped me eat better. We had excellent equal exchange in our little human cat colony. Okay, that's right. They had cats there. He loves cats. Like they kind of take to him, Takers are poor receivers.
That's
typically. Yes. See, so sometimes boundaries, sometimes there's boundaries within boundaries, like somebody will say, hey, okay, I'll just give an example. They say, okay, you're living here. We want you to clean your whatever, clean your dishes and everything, Okay, well, a boundary within that boundary, they might be the kind of people that rinse them off really good and kind of clean them before they put them in the dishwasher, and there's other people just throw it all in there, So they may have a boundary on how you clean your dishes, not only just clean your dishes, but how you do it, So that would be an additional thing to kind of watch how they do it and then kind of mirror, what they're comfortable with,
Or communication. It's part of communication.
Yeah.
So since we're at around the 40 mark, I would really love to have a conversation about spiritual boundaries.
Yes, let's do.
Because of the fact that right now we're all walking into where we're starting to realize we're not the only ones in this world. And many of us who are spiritual or have a form of knowing that we're not alone in this world, we start not having boundaries with the spirit world around us. And that is something we all need to set up. Like my house here, people walk into my house and they go, your house is so calm. And I go, yep, because I have boundaries. Now I have a spiritual room here that I allow, when I have I'm doing a session with someone, I'll light a candle and I'll say that I'm asking the guides, the spirits around me to come in and support and bring messages. But as that candle burns out, so does everybody else go home, and the house gets cleared of anything that is no longer needed. So I've set up boundaries with calling in the guides, thanking them, and then saying, now it's time for you to go. So me being a medium, I don't get bothered by like a lot of them because of the fact that I allow boundaries. I have the boundaries.
Yeah.
And that's what saves me from going insane.
Yeah.
It saves me from going insane because of the fact that I don't want to be bothered by past loved ones constantly. Like today I got a message that one of my coworkers, that she knows about me, and I said, if you're interested in I don't know if you've been interested, you said one time that you'd like to have like a group mediumship. I said, you've got some loved ones who would like to give you a message, but I felt them hovering around me, not talking to me yet, because they knew that they had to set up the boundaries. So that's one thing that I want people to know, that when we have boundaries, set them up. Have your house be safe. Orion says here, the Bible is
problematic.
Problematic.
But it has some good clues. It says one is test the spirits, set boundaries with entities.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that's it. Sometimes, it says, I had my dead mother triple authenticate for security purposes. Yeah, he had her. You'll be happy to hear she's shown up twice now in really dramatic fashion in his dreams in the last. And one of them, she was not able to say anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then when she was there again, he asked her certain, like 3 different questions to get answers to make sure that was really her, things that just they knew. And that. So I think she's starting to get through. And I know she's we both had issues with her. I mean, she was a beautiful human being at core, but had some issues.
Mm-hmm.
And we both had some unfinished stuff, that we've been holding in. And I just, when you got in touch with her from the other side a few weeks ago, and the words that she said, boy, I cried later because I could hear her in your voice saying, and I felt a good healing from that. And that's what, people listening now, Natasha's the real deal here. I mean, and this is how you tell, I think, when a medium, like if they contact a loved one or someone from the other side, the verbiage that the other person on the other side uses, or the mode of what they do, there's an energy that you'll feel that goes beyond just words. It's something that goes to your gut or to your heart or something, and afterwards you go, whoa. I mean, that's what with me, it was a certain way she said what she said. And I know you got emotional too, Natasha, but it was very loving and very kind. And it just made me wish that in the 20 years that I was with her, that I was mature enough and everything to help pull that part out of her more. Her better part, instead of being young and dumb, and doing crazy things.
We are where we are at the moment. Yeah. Who we are is what we are, and that's the thing. And that's one thing that for me being a medium, I have boundaries. So I do not channel. The only people I channel let into me is the angels and Mother Mary and the core of who I am. But when I have a loved one, it's almost like they're sitting right, I can feel them a lot of times, but they're not allowed here. They're allowed here, just off. But what I do a lot of times is that when they have an emotion, a feeling, I can tap into that universal feeling, and then they send it and I help that sending. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So as they send it, I pick up on the humanness and send it too. And it's just, there's something about that gift that I have of being very empathetic with that moment of feelings and emotions, because I'm so tapped into mine. I'm
Yeah.
so tapped into my emotions, and I know them and I respect them, that I can easily support that and tap into what that is. And that's been a very, it's been a gift to me to be able to give someone love and let them feel that love, even though they can't feel what that person is giving them, if that makes any sense.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
Orion said more. Thank you, Orion, for being interactive this way. It's been a gift.
Intuitives vary in accuracy from moment to moment, but I know enough to know that your rate is higher than average. I know how it works. He's saying, yeah, you are, Natasha, that way.
Thank you very much, Ryan. Thank you very much.
And I mean, there's people watching now, because there's 2 times. I remember with Glenda. The first time it was like, because for people watching, it's my ex, who I was married to for 20 years, and she passed away about a month ago. Maybe it's a little longer than that now. And she didn't pass. Natasha picked up that she just didn't go boom right to the other side. She's kind of been in this in between thing because she had unfinished business and everything. And then a week or so later, it seemed like it opened up a little bit, and she still wasn't all the way to where she's going in heaven or the other side, but she was still doing some work and everything. But she was a little putting through things through Natasha to us so that she was okay, and that she wished she had been able to be better for us and that sort of thing. So we keep checking in with Natasha to see how far she's going.
Oh, she's there. She's there.
See there? Oh, that's awesome.
She's there. And part of it was that she and your camera just went blurry.
Yeah.
That's kind of interesting. That we're talking about somebody and then your camera goes blurry. And so with that it's kind of interesting. Okay, let's ask whatever's standing there, slip us to the side. And then so with that, as we're going forward in life, and the boundaries, and knowing who we are, and as we're going forward, that I was talking with someone yesterday, and this was just the cliche aha moment that I caught the idea of spiritual and human boundaries. Excuse me, I got excited.
Yeah.
It's like a football field or a sports field, right? You have the 50-yard mark. You have the middle of the field. Sorry. That is the boundary. Now, for me, I walk into other dimensions, and other dimensions walk into my world. But I always come back to that 50-yard mark. After I do the work, what is going on with your camera?
I don't know. I've had it happen one time before. Sometimes let me go out of the picture and then come back in, see if there it goes. It refocuses.
There it goes.
I had to step out of the picture for a minute.
Yeah. But that 50-yard mark, if we can come back to that center, and it doesn't mean, I've always said that it's not like right or wrong. It's that rightish moment. It's that, it's the ship being uprighted. It's that righted moment, that the 50-yard mark, so that I can walk over and do dimensional work. Let's say, see a past life, see what's happening in another dimension that's right next to me, because I believe that we have different dimensions that are dealing with different things of me in different dimensions. That was weird one time when I was really learning that It's like, where am I doing this work in? Is it that lifetime, or this lifetime? And I had to come up with that word, the mantra, I'm living in this lifetime, in this moment, in this body, and I'm choosing to make decisions in this lifetime. And that really helped set up boundaries, that 50-yard mark, so I can still walk over, check it out. I can still walk into, let's say, energetically into the star beings. I can do all that. And they can support me, let's say channeling, navigating with hearing a message, doing that. But at the end of the moment, whenever that is, an end of a session, end of a message, end of me doing a meditation, I come back to that 50-yard mark and be respectful of, they can have their space and I can have mine.
Yeah.
And that might be a good imagery for some people who are struggling with being kind of where they're not feeling as grounded, not feeling as, is that they're not necessarily, they're maybe staying on the 30-yard mark of the other person's team or the other person's life, instead of being in their life on
Yeah.
their side of the field. So
Yeah, it's
Orion,
like walking the middle road.
exactly.
She's still with people will probably cross over within a few months. Okay, that's what he's getting from her.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's not. And when people cross over, they can cross. It just gives them an opportunity to. This is my observation of the world that I've lived in. And watching my dad was very interactive in this mode, so he showed me a lot of this. Is that they stay here helping, and I know Orion, that she like my father. I was pregnant with my first child when my dad died, and so that 6 weeks to 3 months of during my last part of my pregnancy and my child being born, my father was around a lot. Now I know my father crossed over because he was very spiritual in this world, but sometimes our loved ones stay here and don't fully cross over because they want to support and help.
Yeah.
And Orion, I'm going to say this boldly, she's sticking around because she loves you so much.
Yeah.
And she wants to fix,
Yeah.
or heal, or help, or support, or be kind to you.
Yeah.
For the scenarios that she put unknowingly and knowingly, because of who she was, people through.
Yeah. That's what I felt she was. She thought she would be required to be embodied again, but she thought she would not be required to be embodied again, but is required to. Maybe not in this universe, though. Yeah, that's what. Speaking about that too, and boundaries and things. When you get to the other side.
Yeah, thank you for that last statement there, Ryan. It's the least you can do, and that's one thing that when people cross over, that they kind of have that observation, and that's where I'm saying that they do an observation. A lot of times, like my dad, he was pretty much alone, but I can tell that your mom has support, helping her angels, loved ones that have passed over. It's giving her this is how you can do it. She's not doing this alone. She's doing this with support and help, and so she can observe what she's doing, what she did, and the whys. Oh, I did that because I didn't know better to do better, and I really had a rough life, and I didn't know how to deal with my emotions in the human form, And now I can see that was human of me to do those actions because I didn't know better to do better. And so with that there is that networking, and now she can hopefully heal, while grief. This is a statement here. Grief is the time we are open like a cracked egg, and that's a perfect time for the universe to do some major work with us.
Yeah. Yeah, grief, it does open you up, doesn't it?
And when you're that raw, you're I'm here, I'm open. It's almost like being naked in front of the universe, and that's a perfect time to do that spiritual work. And that's when we can get that moment, like my dad being with me while I was pregnant, saying that I haven't left you. You may think I've left you, but I haven't left you. I'm right here. Boy, he really taught my young one a lot of things.
Yeah.
Okay, so he also said she has both support and
adversity. What does that mean? She has support and adversity.
Yeah, if you can clear that a little bit, because I would like to support you in that thought.
Yeah, what we found out, which is interesting too, in the work that the Newton Institute is doing, when people get to the other side, since part of you is always there in heaven, like even when you incarnate, you leave part of yourself there and the other part comes to your body. So there's always a higher self there. But you can, people, even if they've reincarnated again, if they come back quick, you can still talk to the part of themselves that's still there. So let's say if grandpa died, maybe he came back and in these, somewhere in some other country or come back in the family as a grandchild or something like that. You can still talk to him up there because there's always part of us that's always there, which is pretty cool because that's our home.
It is.
We get finished here, we're just going back home. We tend to look at things backwards where we think this is home, but it's actually you pass away. This is just a learning experience and you go back home, to your origin or where you're from and where you were created. So it's interesting research.
It is. But the one thing that I've learned that I have done is that every time I find a part of myself, let's say what's happened in a past life and I've claimed it to do better in this lifetime, or I've gotten a big aha and I'm holy crap, that's the piece of the puzzle I really needed to live my truer self. I said, I got a piece of mine and I'm coming home, because I know my soul is here. And so that collection of knowledge has helped me come home so I can live in this physical body better.
Yeah.
And so that's, yes, I can take it home, but that's different than coming home. And it's almost like a puzzle coming together. It's that puzzle piece coming together. So Ryan said a little bit more here.
Oh, fluffy bunny. Oh.
Yeah, it's not all fluffy bunnies. No. There is a lot of us souls who had a very rough time, who need some tough love on the other side sometimes. And I can tell that there's some souls where there's two angels on either side of their arms, got them picked up and going, "You're coming with us," But it's not necessarily. It's not out of malice.
Right. Yeah. At least that's what we found out.
Yeah, it's tough love. It could be
people
tough love.
People interpret things sometimes as bad or evil when it's just tough love. Like, you get a little child that's 4 years old and they go and say, "I hate you, Mom," and because the mom made him have a timeout for something or trying to teach him, and the kid felt like the mom was being evil or bad when really the point was they were just being taught a lesson or being shown something that way. So
yeah, exactly. It's one of those things that I hope that even though we didn't cover all this language of love, especially being a parent and having a child on some kind of drugs and wanting your child to do healthier and having to say, I can't give you anymore, having those kinds of tough love boundaries are not easy. And that's a whole nother show, that kind of boundaries. But I hope that this conversation that Regan and I had with everyone, that, that boundaries are something that it is healthy. It is very respectful. It gives somebody to be two pillars to make a good roof over ours. So if we can be that strong pillar of ourselves, of knowing that, I'm sorry, I know that you love to make dinner, but please don't burn my food. It's like boundaries.
Yeah. So there's boundaries that you want to set to other people, how you want them to treat you, and you want to reciprocate and find out what their boundaries are and how they want to be treated and respect those. It's a game changer, that way when you do that. And just in other words, it's do unto others as you expect people to do unto you.
Exactly. And being so tough, rigid with our boundaries is sometimes I'm praying for kindness with that, because I know a lot of people have the perception and a very closed off idea, because they've had a tough life, that it's hard to get new information in there. And I hope that people, as we go through life, that, having tough love and kindness is a fine line. And, boundaries are not straight. They're very wobbly and weavly,
Yeah.
and if we can be a little bit more kinder with that wobbly and weavly, instead of having just this is the brick wall. I'm having a house that is nobody is allowed in, but we got windows, we have sliding glass doors, we have all these places that if we have some kindness and let breath in, we
Yeah.
sure can learn a lot. So Ryan
Well,
said, tough love ain't love. There's a difference between Jesus flipping tables. Okay, can you
and
read that?
malicious, tough love ain't love. There's a difference between Jesus flipping tables and malicious entities trying to take over the universe. Yeah, you're going to have that's not love when somebody has an agenda that's not
Yeah.
being
And John,
kind.
yes.
Yeah,
Jesus embodied being straightforward enough to take, but he didn't tell.
the disadvantaged to bugger off.
Exactly. And that is what I'm talking about, tough love.
Right. Tough love
It's not about telling an entity, get the frick out of my house. But it's that one moment where you can say, are you being mean? And doing it with an intention of trying to help. And tough love is saying, I'm sorry, I can't do it anymore. You're going to have to do it yourself. I will watch you. I will be your witness. I can't help you anymore because I love myself enough to say no. And I love you enough to help you fall enough that you can learn your lessons so you can bounce back up again.
Yeah. And when we set boundaries
that tough love is a very wobbly line, and we could discuss all the different angles of it, but it's
well, tough love can be uplifting or it could be abusive depending on how it's done. And then maybe it's not tough love, maybe that's just meanness.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
And that's where
the
line shifts when you're just plain old mean.
Right. That would be the difference between tough and tough love. One's done with love and one's done that way. But also, for the last thing here to mention today is, and check in with your boundaries to other people sometimes and try to see and make sure that they're fair and loving. Because sometimes you can set boundaries or something which are actually not good. I mean, they're not kind, not kind boundaries because of something that we have a dysfunction in, or, something, that way. So, if for people watching, with the boundaries you have for others, just check in to see, is that really a kind boundary?
Or does it need to be at the 85-yard mark? Can it be a little bit more at the 45-yard mark?
Right. Yeah.
Check in to see, do you need to have it that extreme?
Yeah.
Thank you, Ryan, for your input. I would love to sit down and have a discussion with you one day.
Oh yeah, easy.
You go to those worlds that I don't get a chance to expand.
He does
in conversation.
He's a star.
And
child,
I love having those discussions that go beyond the world. And this is my little world that I'm trying to stay in right now.
Yeah. Well, let's see. Next week, we don't know what we're talking about yet, but the difference between enabling a person to function better and being ableist. Oh yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. We teach people how to treat us. That is a true statement. In a basic way. So, well, my love goes to everyone going through these days of flipping and flopping around in what the stars and the planets are trying to teach us, and at the same time what the humans around us are teaching us too. Oh, blessings to you through this journey of life.
Yeah.
So Regan, how can people get a hold of you?
Well, visit theafterlife.com. It's I work through the Newton Institute, and we have a process that we've discovered that allows anyone to visit heaven for a couple hours. It's like a near-death experience without the death part. It's amazing. We've had 65,000 people do it, and it's happening. It's not just something that it's just made up or anything like that. And all these 65,000 people basically had the same basic experience with variations. So that's why we, in research is to prove something's true, you have to have something that's repeatable. And this has been repeatable 65,000 times. So we pretty much know reincarnation is real. We know that God made us with this ability, just like he's given Natasha the ability to access the other side. And he's given us these ways, either through a deep trance or hypnosis, to become your own medium in a way, or to be someone like Natasha, who can directly access the other side. And it's all about love. It's just about, it's almost like there's a whole billions of coaches on the other side that have been where we're at in the tough times, and they know a little bit more. They know more of the why to things. They know more of they have a bigger picture of things. And there's so much love up there that they're willing to help us. And we just kind of tune into that, or I help people tune into it. So go to my website. There's some videos on there. You can watch someone actually going to a past life and then going to the afterlife with a guide and all that happens. And I'm still giving away a book on there too of Reincarnation is Real. You can just request it on the contact page, and it's about all the current research being done in reincarnation and the afterlife right now. So what about you, Natasha? And get a hold of you.
You can reach me at angelicclarifications.com. And this is I just got the idea. So the message that when you go into a session with Regan, that's your personal journey through your personal mind, through your personal experience, which is a gift to do. Now, for me, I talk to sometimes 3 other intuitives to get the message, to get the perspective, to get that, oh, that's really what I'm going through. So with that's where I have loved so much, where you've done a session with someone and then someone comes and does a session with me to get the, oh, that's the perspective that I might have needed to hear of the humanness of what the spirit was trying to tell me.
Yeah.
And with that, and then I also know that people sometimes feel like going into a trance is too vulnerable for them. And that's where I love to support people through my intuitive work with the mediumship, with the walking through grief is not easy. It's not easy. And I've helped many go through the grief process and honor themselves through that and see what the grief process was trying to help them be, and understanding that. And then we all have these emotions that we got tagged along in life, and I treat them like my best friend sometimes.
Yeah.
So with that as we go through life, both Regan is a great counselor. I've witnessed how he has been very knowledgeable in his walk of life, to be very observant of himself and others to help. And I too. So if you feel comfortable with Regan or you feel comfortable with me, please have a session, because I know that each of us can help you in your own way.
Yeah, just people don't realize that they don't have to see you in person, that you can do this on Zoom or even on the phone, that you can pick up the energies and help. And the same with this life between life thing. We discovered because of COVID that, we can put people in trance right over Zoom, and they can go to the afterlife and back, and it works out just perfect. But also, if you need any help with fears or phobias or post-traumatic stress, or want to quit smoking, lose weight, that sort of thing, or bad habits, hypnosis and some other modalities I use work good. And I help people around the country on Zoom, just with regular therapy too. So happy to help anybody needs some.
Blessings to everyone. And please remember, if this is your first time watching this, whatever platform, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, if you would like it, please share it, or follow the page, or subscribe to the page. And if you know someone who really can use the conversations that we're having, please share us with them, because we're here to support and help others. And that's why we give away so much information here, because it is about helping someone. Now, if you have a session with us, it becomes more personal, so we can help you more personally through the journey of life. This is more general conversation.
Right.
So see everybody next Monday. I do on Wednesday have a guest, and her name just slipped my mind.
What are you going to be talking about with her?
She is also a past life person.
Oh,
and
perfect.
works through things. And God, this is so embarrassing. This is so embarrassing. I apologize. It's uh, no, it's not Robin. I've had like 4 people who Wendy Williams is coming on. I've had like 4 people come to be on shows, and so it's like so
Great.
Wendy Williams, and she's had 2 near death experiences, so she's going to be on my show on Wednesday at 4
Awesome.
o'clock on
4
the same
o'clock.
platforms.
Okay. Okay. So everybody tune into that.
Yes, and I may have her come on this show too later after I get to
Sure.
see how we got connected. It was she came to my show first, so
Oh, that's good. That's good.
yeah. So blessings, everyone.
All right,
We will
everybody.
see you
See
next
you next week
week.
at 4.
Bye now.